everybody. Welcome to this week's show of Director's Cut. I'm Jackson Kinney alongside my co-director at iOS TV Sports, Drew Fry. And this week we have a very special guest, IU alumni, Rays sideline reporters for Fox Sports Sun, Tricia Whitaker. Tricia, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. I would never miss a Zoom interview with one of my favorite former students.
Thank you. Yeah, I took one of Tricia's classes. She teaches here at the school in the off season, which I don't know how your off season is going to look this year with the whole weird season set up and just the world in general. But we'll get to that. But I mentioned you are the sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Rays, and you've kind of seen and done it all. Been in Green Bay, Indianapolis covering the NFL, but last year was your first year covering the MLB. So just talk about yourself a little bit. What's it been like covering baseball, especially at such a level you're at now?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, before this, I didn't really cover baseball consistently at all. And especially last year with the Rays in 2019, they were the team that nobody thought would make a splash, and then they win 96 games, and normally 96 games is enough to not get the wild card and just make the postseason, but they're in the same division as the Yankees and the Red Sox, even though last year the Red Sox weren't the problem, it was the Yankees. So it was so much fun. They made the postseason, won the wild card game, played Houston, took them to Game 5 of the ALDS, which we will not speak of because I'm still a little bit bitter about that. I have a lot of questions. But yeah, I mean, it was an experience of a lifetime, and this year has been tough, and it will be tough, but at least we're getting back to baseball.
And last year you posted a lot, and it was really cool getting to see behind the scenes, the life basically. What were some of your favorite experiences? Because I know you got to celebrate a couple walk-offs. You were in the room when the champagne was flying a couple of times. Just talk about some of the best things you saw and just basically about that.
Yeah, so one of the cool parts about being a sideline reporter for a team is that you get to know the team on a level that nobody does. I mean, because I travel with the team, I'm with them all season long. We're on the same plane. We're all staying in the same hotel. We travel to the stadium together. We leave the stadium together. And that has been the coolest part of all of this, is just being a part of that group and getting to know the players, not just the players, but like their families. I know their kids, like I know their wives, I know their parents, even their grandparents. That's been the coolest part. And yes, when the champagne flows, I tend to be in the line of fire with that. So when they clinched in Toronto, I mean, I don't know that anybody in that clubhouse had as much champagne and beer poured over their head as I did, and I had nothing to do with the game. But that's just a part of it, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. And then when they won the wild card game in Oakland, that was another thing. That night, it ended up on SportsCenter, I believe, just because the guys, I mean, if you thought they didn't drench me in Toronto, they really made sure they did in Oakland. So, and then there were a few times, one time in particular, that I was in the line of fire with a walk-off. G-Man Choi meant to dump it on Tommy Pham, but didn't. And that was hilarious. I mean, we had a lot of fun with that. So I can't even think about that not happening this year. I think that's going to be like the toughest part, is like, we can't be together. They can't even celebrate like that together. When somebody hits a walk-off, I mean, it's elbow bumps, which is sad. I mean, that's sad.
It is sad, really sad. At least for walk-offs in general, you kind of imagine it. There's a mob at the plate, and then, as you mentioned, at the post-game interview, there's a pie or the cooler splash. Just all these traditions we'll be so used to seeing, but it will look different. And just getting into that, how is it going to look different for you this season, not being able to be right there next to a player after he hits a walk-off, or right there at his locker asking him a question? What's going to be different for you moving into this season?
Everything is going to be different. So we can't go near the players. I mean, we can't go on the field. We can't go in the clubhouse. We can't go near the dugout. I'm going to be positioned on a porch in center field. And that's where I'm going to do my hits. That's where I'm going to do the interviews. The interviews will be like this. The guys will have a headset on and I'll be talking to them, which is fine. But it is, when a guy hits a walk-off or something, there's nothing like being right there 10 seconds after it happens and putting a microphone in his face and asking him questions. I mean, that to me is why a sideline reporter is valuable, because you get that immediate reaction. And that's raw emotion that makes television good. And that's not going to happen this time. I mean, they're going to put a headset on and talk to us, but like, it's not going to be the same. And the other thing with this whole situation, we're not traveling camera crews, right? So when we broadcast a game where the Rays are playing the Yankees in Florida, the Yankees broadcast team, they're using our camera crew. So during the broadcast, we're all seeing the same thing. So it's not like I can just run out there and do a hit on the field or something like that. They can't take that camera from me, that camera angle of me, because they're sharing it with Yes Network in New York City. So it's just going to look so strange and it's going to feel strange, but at least we have something to talk about, right?
Right, and that is actually interesting. I didn't know about the camera crews. Drew, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, I was watching a broadcast the other day where, one of the players got hit by a pitch and the announcers even said, normally our sideline reporter will be down there, but at the moment we just have to wait for the PR team to just let us know what's going on. So when you get tasked with that sort of a role where, you don't get the same sort of access, how do you try and take those steps forwards, and like, how does that affect your job? What do you do after that?
Yeah, it's going to be so weird because usually I sit right next to the dugout, or in some circumstances, in some stadiums, because of the way it's built, I literally sit in the dugout. I mean, not like with the guys, but like over in the corner. And I don't get to do that anymore, right? So I can't hear their reaction. I can't give anybody any information about like, oh, this guy is holding his elbow or this guy, whatever, because I can't see. I can get binoculars out, but like, that's not the same, that's too much speculation. But what will happen with injury reports, which normally happens when everything is normal, is the PR staff will let me know. So they'll text me and let me know what the injury was for so-and-so who came out of the game, and I'll report it. So I'll be on camera probably a lot less, which whatever. Nobody needs to see my face any more than they do, I suppose. But that part doesn't really change, but the whole eyes and ears part does. I'm not the eyes and ears of the broadcast anymore. And hopefully in 2021, it'll be back to normal.
I mean, we can only hope at this point, but now I did have a couple of questions about some things I've seen you tweeting about that is kind of bizarre to me. And Drew, we've talked about it a little bit, but during the summer camp, you've been in the stadium and you've heard them piping in the fake crowd noise after a hit or a nice play. And among other things that I do want to get to, I just want to know, what's that like? And is it anywhere near having a normal crowd?
So we did a practice game, basically a practice broadcast on Tuesday that did air. We just aired a practice. It was a scrimmage between guys on the team, powder blue and navy blue. And on the broadcast, the crowd noise actually sounded really good. In person, it sounds a little strange, but I will tell you this. Nothing sounds as strange as a silent stadium. I mean, that is a horrible, it is a bad feeling. Like, I was in there at the beginning of camp and it was just totally silent, and it sucked all of the joy out of you. When you walk to the ballpark, you're so excited, and then all of a sudden you're just like, there's nothing like going on. Like, we can't even like hear it was joy sucking. Mm-hmm. So the crowd noise really helped on the broadcast. I mean, I was watching it. I wasn't on the inter-squad game because we didn't know how long the game was going to be. It was a practice. It was a big thing. But as I watched the broadcast, it sounded really good. I mean, it sounded authentic. You almost forgot. Like, you're kind of like, oh, there are fans there. I can hear them. The thing that I think will be weird that they announced today is that they're going to actually put virtual fans in the stands for the broadcasts. Like, you're literally it's going to look like a video game.
Okay, that's interesting. I
I
don't.
don't know how I feel about that because I haven't seen it yet, but we'll
I
see.
mean, from the way you described the crowd noise, I'm thinking I was wrong about it because originally I was kind of against it. But I mean, I do get having that on the broadcast is a big part. And
Yeah,
if it blends in like normal,
yeah,
then you know what? That's fine. It's probably better to have. But the
yeah.
virtual crowd is interesting. And that brings up something I saw. It was like an app on one of the MLB's
Yes.
platforms where you can check into a game, and this might go hand in hand with the virtual fan thing, but you can check into a game and press a button for cheer or press a button for boo. And if they can pipe that in somehow, I don't know how that would work, but what do you think about that? Because I think that might go hand in hand with the virtual crowd.
I love it. I love it. I don't know how I feel about the virtual crowd, but I love the idea of virtually being able to boo or scream when you want to at the ballpark. I mean, I think that's really cool. I mean, this is so weird. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, what do we have to lose? What could it hurt? Nothing. We all know that it's fake. We all know that there's nobody there, and we all know what's going on. So why not have fun with it? I mean, it's the same thing with the cutouts. Like, that's fun. Like cardboard cutouts in the stands of like your face or whatever. Like, great. Let's have fun with this weird as hell situation. Like nobody likes what's happening right now, but we got to make do.
And have
Right,
you
and
seen some of the
you go ahead, Drew.
have you seen some of the players sort of buy into that too? I remember there was a closed off game to the fans in Baltimore years ago, and some of the players are like flipping balls to the empty seats. Like, do you think the players are like aware of this and are just sort of like messing around in that way?
Yeah, I mean, they like it. Every guy I've interviewed about the crowd noise or talked to has said that they like it. I mean, they do not like silence and empty echoing throughout the stadium during the game. I mean, these guys, what people don't understand is like they play for the love of the game. They also play for the fans. They play for the atmosphere. That's part of the joy of the game, is going out there and having thousands of people cheering you on or booing you, whatever it is. I mean, that's part of it. And so all the guys I've talked to really like the crowd noise, and the cardboard cutouts are going to let them have some fun with it too.
And having fun with cardboard cutouts, you mentioned before we started recording, you submitted one of your dog.
I did. I submitted one of Kingdale. I don't know. I think that they're going to do dogs and cats. I don't know. I think they should. Why not? But yeah, I submitted one of my dog, and the entire broadcast team has a cutout. I mean, anybody can submit one. It has to be like appropriate, but I mean, anybody can submit one. I don't think that they would put one in there with like, somebody wearing a Yankee shirt or something, but like, I mean, do it. You guys should do it. I'll look for you in the crowd. Let me know what day.
I might as well, because I mean, this time last summer I was living in Florida, going to Rays games. So, and I almost wore a giveaway shirt they had where it was a full Zubaz Tampa Bay Rays themed shirt.
Well,
But
I see your Rowdies flag, so.
oh yeah, but yeah, I couldn't find that, and I was so sad. But I might have to text my dad after this, be like, hey, we need to get a cutout ASAP.
You should. You
But
should. Both of you should.
like you said, it's a weird situation. In Chicago, the White Sox, they do have a cutout of a cat sitting front row somewhere in one of the lower sections, and then one fan bought 100 seats for 100 of his cutouts.
That's amazing.
One of the beat reporters out of Chicago, they tweeted out, "Yeah, this is bizarre. I don't know how to feel about it, but like, why not?"
I love it.
And if I had the money to do it, there'd be 100 cutouts of me sitting in right field in Cincinnati. I can promise you that.
Do it. I mean, that's so funny. I love it. There's so many ways to get creative with all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. But talking about the Rays, they last season, you mentioned 96 games.
Mm-hmm.
If it weren't for the Yankees, they probably would have won the AL East and might have not had to deal with Houston in the ALDS. But going into this year's 60-game shortened season, what can we expect out of the Rays with the lineup they have?
Well, first of all, I think the Rays are going to thrive under this weird format because they're already a very unconventional team. They do strange things. They created the opener. They are versatile and they are deep. They are very deep. They have a lot of depth to them, and that is going to really come in handy this season, I think, because, what if a guy does get COVID and he has to go on the COVID injured list? Who are you going to call up? Like, the Rays have a plethora of options. And this season, it truly is a sprint and not a marathon. And the Rays are really good at sprinting. When it matters, they're really good. When their backs are against the wall, they play better. That was the theme of last season. Every time their back was against the wall, they played better. Down the stretch, when they were battling with the Indians for that wild card spot, I mean, the Rays were incredible. They played through your Dodgers
Yep.
in LA. And I remember that game because it went 12 innings. It was like midnight in LA, which meant in Tampa it was like, what? I don't even know.
3 a.m, yeah.
Morning, yeah.
Yeah, East Coast.
Yeah, and they won the game. And the Dodgers are a really good team. And that was like a defining moment of 2019. And to me, it was a defining moment for the character of this team and what they do when their backs are against the walls. Because when they won that game, it was like, okay, they've got the wild card now. They've got it. Like, no question asked. So I think this 60-game format is going to benefit them. And they've got a lot of young guys who are really just hungry for this type of success. And I mean, I know I'm biased, but like, I've seen so many predictions that the Rays are going to win the AL East. Will it happen? I don't know. Can they? Absolutely they can. And at the beginning of last season, I don't know if I would have said that. I don't know if I would have. But this season, I can say that.
I think last season kind of let the secret out of the box, especially with guys like Austin Meadows, who they acquired. Kevin Kiermaier kind of has been the mainstay since Longoria left. The name fans know. But then you've got guys like G-Man Choi, who just really broke out last year, one of the most fun players out there. Mm-hmm. And then last offseason, the Rays went out and signed a Japanese player, Yoshi Tsutsugo. And nobody really knows what to expect out of him. There's a lot, like you mentioned, on this Rays team that could break out and win this division pretty easily. Is there one player that you think people should look out for?
Oh my gosh. To narrow it down to one.
Because I know it's pretty hard to narrow it down to one when you've got that deep.
I mean, I think the guy this season that I might have my eye on watching the most is Tyler Glasnow. He's one of our starting pitchers. Last season, he started the year as best pitcher in the league for like a month and a half, 2 months, maybe, month and a half, maybe. Yeah. And then he got injured, and he was out until the postseason and until right before the postseason. And it was devastating because, I mean, clearly the Rays were fine, but it was devastating because everybody was looking forward to seeing him that season. And I am excited to see what he can do in this 60-game format when he's fully healthy, because our starting pitching staff was already so good last year. To add Tyler Glasnow to the mix for an entire season, I think is really exciting. And obviously then you also are going to be watching Charlie Morton. He had a lights-out season last year. He was a Cy Young candidate. He is like a fine wine. It's like every year he gets better, and he's like, 36 years old, and he's in his prime. Blake Snell, probably looking for a bounce-back year last season. He struggled with injuries off and on and a little bit of inconsistency after he had won the Cy Young in 2018. Austin Meadows following up an all-star season. One of the guys that I'll be watching this season too on the Rays, his name's Mike Brasso. He is actually from Indiana. He is from Northern Indiana. He made the opening day roster for the first time in his career because he was just called up last season, and he was undrafted. I mean, this is a guy who all the odds were against him, and now he made the opening day roster. So, sorry, you said name one, but I definitely named like five.
No, it's fine. And Mike Brasso, to me, he sounds like the kind of guy that's perfect for Tampa Bay, where they come out and find a player, diamond in the rough kind of deal, and then he ends up being a big contributor for him. And I feel like if any team's going to do that, it's going to be a team like Tampa.
Oh, yeah. He seems like the epitome of the Rays type of player. And I also just want to mention that pitching staff that you touched on is absolutely lethal. I mean, it's hard to find another pitching staff with all that potential and all that proven, Cy Young winners. Morton and just the entire class that you mentioned as well. And especially in that division, which, I mean, the Yankees have been trying to bolster up their rotation. But after that, I mean, the Red Sox have no one. The Orioles and Blue Jays have maybe one guy. But I think Tampa Bay's pitching can really just, like, shut out the rest of the league.
I hope that you're right, and I agree with you. I mean, I guess you never know, but
Right.
I agree with you. With their track record and, like you said, looking at the rest of the AL East, the path is pretty wide open for them.
Yeah.
And, I mean, so many people have just thrown their name around as World Series candidates. And I for the first time in a while, that is a legitimate prediction.
It is.
Right. And I mean, they really only have to go up against the Yankees to even try to get there. Just in the general division, they're world beaters with that lineup. Boston, nobody really knows what to expect out of them. Toronto doesn't even have a home right now.
Yeah.
And they're less than 24 hours away from opening their season in Tampa.
Yeah, that's crazy. What is 2020?
That's the question we've all been asking.
Outside of the AL East and just the Rays in general, is there any team or any other players in the league that you see that you're going to keep your eye on throughout these 60 games?
Oh, gosh. Well, Drew's Dodgers made quite the splash recently.
They did. And then I heard that this Mookie guy is somewhat good.
I heard that too. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the Dodgers are going to be good. I think I'll have my eye on the Dodgers and the Yankees. I mean, especially being in the AL East, having your eye on the Yankees, you just always have to have your eye on the Yankees. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to be good. I think the Yankees are going to be good. But one of the points one of the players made, and this is a really good point, he said it's only 60 games, and that gives even bad teams a chance. And I think that's something that we can't forget. I mean, you look at the AL East and you think, well, the Orioles and the Blue Jays are not good. But it's only 60 games. And if you get on a roll, you get on a roll. And if you are on a losing streak, you could go on a losing streak, and that's pretty much it for your season. Whereas during 162 games, that's not going to happen. I mean, you could go on a 3-week losing streak of, you know, a horrible record, and you could still be fine or have a chance. So I honestly think we're going to be surprised at how many teams do compete that we would not have thought would compete.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of cynical in the way that I think it's still going to be like the Yankees and the Dodgers at the end of the year. But like you said, there have been a lot of predictions. The Rays make it to the World Series. I've seen predictions saying the White Sox could make it, or even the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, like you said, there are a lot of these teams who are young, not usually good in the sense that people know it as, that have a chance. And I mean, Drew, if you want to talk to this, it's going to be a weird season, especially for teams like the White Sox, who I think personally have a really good chance, actually.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the White Sox are great. My favorite is I saw someone pick the Indians to be the World Series champions. And I thought that was interesting. They have a great rotation, at least like that top three. But, yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's just about who's going to get hot in what stretches. And if Shane Bieber and Mike Clevenger and Carlos Carrasco go off for 3 months, then that's it, you know? And that's why this season's going to be so interesting. There's still been discussions about expanding the playoffs. That could be a huge stretch. But, yeah, I think one of the most interesting stories could be the Red Sox, a team which are sort of starting their rebuild. I mean, in 60 games, it's not like they're already out, but at the same time, they have no one on that pitching staff. And if their bats, you know, if they still have Benintendi, they still have JBJ, they've still got JD Martinez, Bogarts, if those guys can carry them just for the stretch, you know, so be it. And, I mean, as a Dodgers fan, I've paid attention to this team a lot, and I know, like, guys like Jock Peterson tends to be, like, a first half player. Cody Bellinger's MVP was largely based on his first half. That could bode really well for this team. But at the same time, go to like the Minnesota Twins. A player I've loved watching is Byron Buxton because of how talented he is. But I've only seen him put that together over the span of like 3 weeks at a time. So, if, you know, there's no room for error. If you have a rookie that struggles over the first 10, 15 games, that might be it.
All right, it's gonna be weird, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
know I just threw a lot of points at you. I'm sorry. A lot going through my head. It's opening day. I'm pumped up.
They were good points. They were good points.
I don't blame you, but kind of last question, just one more after this, but you mentioned predictions a lot. I want to hear your World Series prediction. Who gets there? And I mean, if obviously the Rays have a chance, and if they get there, who would they play, or who do you see them playing?
Oh, Drew, you go first.
Oh no! All right. Well, I've been put on the spot. I mean, I'll take the easy part for the NL, and I have to be generic and say it's going to be the Dodgers. I feel like it would be wrong of me considering I am all decked out and have my background set up. But in the AL, yes, it would make sense for a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. I think that's the go-to. But this season has been nothing if unconventional already. So I don't think Dodgers-Yankees is going to happen. I don't know who's going to be the team to falter. Of course, the next best, obviously the Rays would be a very good pick. If I'm looking at a sleeper, part of this may just be I want to see it, but I'm looking at maybe like someone like the Angels.
Okay.
The Indians could be an option too, but if we're really getting down to sleepers in the AL, I like what the Angels have been doing. They've grabbed Rendon, they have Trout. We might see Joe Adell this season, which he's an incredible prospect. They've got Ohtani finally healthy. And I want to see playoff Mike Trout. I really want to. And so I think part of me is just sort of hoping for that. So if that happens, I'll pick an all LA matchup in the World Series just for fun. We'll hope.
That would be interesting. But I hope it doesn't happen because
Of
I
course.
hope the Rays Dodgers in the World Series. Rays win in 7.
Okay.
That would be a fun series. My perfect dream is a Cincinnati Tampa Bay World Series. Just the small markets taking over in the two places that I live. So, it couldn't get it much better than that. But if I had to be more realistic, I could see – I don't want to just say the Dodgers because there's so
That's
much
fair.
weird to happen. I think the Nationals could come back and show what they got. I think Juan Soto over 60 games would be a lot of fun to see. Well, he will be a lot of fun. We do get to see it. In the AL, it's so weird. The Astros, I mean, they're still a good team regardless of what you think with what came out over the offseason. But between the Yankees, Rays, Astros, it's hard to pick from one of those three. So I'll just say the Rays to keep them in there, keep them topical. But last thing off the wall, and if you have multiple, it's fine. But Drew and I have been doing a little bit of a bracket challenge for sports movies, and that's actually going to get posted later today. But I just want to know if you have one or a couple or 3 sports movies that are your go-to when you want to get in the mood for that, or just favorites that you grew up with watching, or just something you just saw. What would you be wanting to watch? Because there's, from Indiana, obviously Hoosiers is one of our number one choices that Drew and I still have to watch together.
Yeah, so I would say a sports movie I always loved growing up was Remember the Titans. That's probably that's top 2 for sure. I'm also a huge Denzel Washington fan, so anything he's in I like. But Hoosiers, I mean, is there another choice? I grew up in Bloomington. I went to IU, worked in Indy for 4 years. Absolutely Hoosiers. That movie will never. Another underrated sports movie I feel like that I've always liked is Glory Road. Have you ever seen that one?
No, what's it about?
Glory Road is about a basketball coach who he becomes the coach at Texas, I believe, at a Texas school. I don't know what school. I can't remember. And it's during a time of a lot of racial injustice and racism and a lot of college basketball teams not giving Black athletes a chance. And he does. And that team does. And it's just a really, really good movie. It's based on a true story, and it's just all about overcoming some of those obstacles and giving everybody a chance at playing the game.
That sounds really good. I have to add it to the list. Drew and I still haven't seen Hoosiers yet.
Oh my
Yeah, I'm in
God.
the same boat.
We've got
This has been a recurring theme of Jackson and I still need to watch Hoosiers. It's
Come
kind of
on.
embarrassing.
we're trying to work out plans to see it, whether it be on our own or together, but it will be watched, and that is in our tournament, and especially remember the Titans, that's in there as well for football.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
Good
Drew,
one.
do you have anything else?
No, I did at least want to show off the toy that I brought with me. Not really a toy, but Tricia, since I knew you're coming on today, I brought out my Ray shirt.
I
But
love it.
it has a little bit of a double meaning because it is a David Price shirt.
Oh no! I guess
Who
it
is
does have
now-
a double meaning though. Yeah.
Who is now on the Dodgers, although
Yep.
is also opted out for this season, which that's
I
been
know
a
you did.
a big storyline.
David Price, people really liked him. I wasn't here when he was here, obviously, but people loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Awesome. I love it.
I need to find that Zubaz Tampa shirt. But anyway, Tricia, thank you so much for taking some time out of your last day before the season gets going.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you wanted to plug or tell people about? Or
If you're in Indiana and you want to watch Rays games, watch it on the MLB app, and I'll be there in a
All right.
weird place, but I'll be there.
you'll be on center field. Do they have you next to the Ray tank at least?
It is next to the Rays tank. Yeah, it's next
Very
to the
cool.
But the Stingrays aren't in there, so just an
Well, that
I
point
don't
is
know if
just a
they're going to
pool.
put them in there or not. But right now, they're not in there, so I don't know.
I mean, at least have them as a couple of fans, I guess. But yeah,
Those will be my only friends.
Can we purchase a cardboard cutout of a stingray to put in the pool?
You could try. Yes, you could try.
All
I would
right.
never tell you can't try.
New side
find you a
project.
number you can call for that, and then we'll see what happens. But once again,
Yes.
thank you so much for coming on.
Yep.
A great opening day tomorrow, and we'll be watching. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.